Good afternoon, everybody. It's Mike with smartoptiontrading.com. It is Friday, the 19th of April. This is our weekly video, weekly recap. And if you'd like to join us and see how we've been trading the market this week through this volatility, join us at smartoptiontrading.com and click on live trading alerts. We'd love to have you in our room. We're in a live Discord server with Zoom, and you guys can see what's going on, and we trade in real time all day long. All right, so let's talk about this week and the week that was. We started earnings season. Earnings so far have been a little bit of a mixed bag. You see the SPY here, the high 524.61, and we've had this slow rounding top, and we've kind of accelerated down a little bit here. Had a couple big down days, but for the most part, we've had a very orderly sell-off here. You know, everybody's been crying, we want a pullback, we want a pullback, and now we're getting one. Now everybody's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. This is what we need. This is healthy action. So we hit our 3% pullback. Now we've hit our 5% pullback. Your 10% correction is down here at 472.15. And the 100-day in here is looking very interesting. Should note this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down days in a row. We are overdue for some type of bounce. Today's action a little weird because while the market's weak, breadth has actually been positive all day long. The oscillators have been curling up all day long. And we have some very mixed signals here in the market, but there's some good selling. Volume again here today, 72 million shares. We'll finish somewhere around 100, nothing huge. Okay, so we have that going on. Just a quick look on what took place today, and very interesting here to me. Here was news last night broke of Israel striking Iran. We came down, knee-jerk reaction, and it came right back up, and we got green. And we opened up slightly green very quickly there for a couple minutes. I don't believe this has much to do with what's going on in Iran. In fact, if you ask me, Iran is saying almost nothing. Iran is very quiet. They're not talking like last week. They talk nonstop, a tremendous amount of just, we're going to destroy you if you come after us, this, that, and the other thing. But today, nothing, we've no damage, and everything's quiet. And this to me feels like it's over. We can hope. All right, so the SPY coming down, we'll watch our levels. We're getting into an area where we should start looking for some type of reversal. Homework this weekend, you should be looking to see what do you want to buy when you come out of this. The Qs have been absolutely brutalized. And, sometimes you have to look and say, wow, but this down candle here on the Qs is huge. And this is very interesting because next week we go into our very busy week of earnings. Specifically next week, you take aside the non-big tech names. We have in the semis, we have Seagate, we have Western Digital, we have Intel, and we have Lam Research. We have Tesla on Tuesday, Meta on Wednesday, Microsoft, Alphabet, Snap, Roku on Thursday. In top of that, you have Boeing, GM, UPS, GE, Caterpillar, ExxonMobil, and Chevron. So very, very busy week of earnings coming next week. Something, guys, we need to keep our eyes on because they're going to provide a lot of opportunity. So the Qs absolutely victimized. 404.41 is a 10% correction on the Qs. I know you guys don't want to hear it, but a lot of these names needed this. The IWM actually holding in better today. Not so bad. The Dow was green and still is green on the day. Again, there's some rotation going on under the covers. The financials very strong today. Look at this nice little move up here. Let's zoom in so we can see this nice and easy. Right? Green on the day. JP Morgan, nice move back to the 8-day. Bank of America has been on fire. Wells Fargo has been on fire, broke out above 58. Beautiful move up there. Banks showing a lot of relative strength. Energy, not so much, but holding in. For what it's worth, the VIX here, you had that big pop on the news of the attack and came down, closing inside the Bollinger Band. Look again how quickly this came in. Before we opened, we were already under the lows. So the market is at new lows, well below the earlier week lows, and the VIX is not even there. The VIX is saying this is no big deal. I know it's manipulated heavily by the daily options now, but the VIX is saying this is not a big deal. Bonds remain weak. That is a bigger problem for the market. Rates continue to go up. The dollar remains strong. That's another problem. And if you want to point and say this is about Iran, crude is saying no, it's not. Crude spiked yesterday. Look at this come down. It actually went red for a while, closed very slightly green. Crude is saying there's nothing going on here. So we have this kind of market here right now where you just have to look at it and say, there's a lot of different moving parts. We're seeing some rotation, and that's how you kind of have to deal with it. The SMHs, they're the weak link right now. There's a lot of talk that, can the earnings live up to what they are? So we came down. We're into this gap now. We're almost filled this gap. I would look for that to fill early next week, and we'll see. Big move down here on the SMHs there. SMCI this morning. I mean, one of the most ridiculous excuses for a sell-off I've ever heard on a name. So just before the open, right in here, they announced their earnings report was on the 30th of April. And then I heard they started selling because of that, because they didn't issue guidance, because the last couple times they've pre-issued guidance before they reported. I don't understand why that's a reason to sell the stock. Who knows? Maybe they're getting more in line like a regular company. Bottom line, I've been talking for weeks that this downtrend was in control. It tried to break above it this week, couldn't hold, and that this gap was in play. This gap filled, right? This big gap there is now filled. It's gone. And, now we'll see what it wants to do here as we go forward. You can see it has room to come down. NVDA traded today. That's where I made most of my money today on a nice trades on this. NVIDIA coming down. You have a gap at 742 is your next area to watch. Big break here. Broke below the 50-day for the first time. Why do I say I'm not worried about NVIDIA? Well, a year ago it was sitting around 260 area. So now we've moved all the way up to 974 and we pull back a bit and we're still well above the 200-day. This is a coming in ahead of earnings. Can NVIDIA do what it's done the last two reports, right? Can it do what it's been doing here with these reports? I don't know. The ability to sit there and to beat huge and guide up, I'm not sure they can keep doing it. Maybe that's what the market's worried about here. AMD, I'm taking my time today, guys. I'm trying to help you guys out. Another company I love long-term. We talked about this head and shoulder now for a few weeks that had formed here. Look at this huge breaking down, big move. I've been saying the 200 days in play. I got to tell you, the market turns around. AMD's at the 200-day. It has my attention. ARM is getting absolutely obliterated into that gap. Might want to come down here into this 77 area. So an area to watch. Again, what goes up like that tends to come down. ASML this week, guidance was meh. It's coming in. We had Taiwan Semi. Their guidance was backloaded. It's coming in. That's probably what's going on here. Let's switch over to Tesla. Tesla reports next week. We're at a new 52-week low, getting absolutely punished here. A year ago, less than a year ago, was up in this 300 area. So again, big haircut on this. Earnings are going to be very important. What they say, what the message is. Bad report on this one might actually start to be built in. Microsoft reports next week. Came down, broke this upper channel, came into the lower channel, and here it is trying to hold it. And just below 400, it's at a very big spot. Right here at this 397 area. Huge spot for Microsoft. You want it to hold. Again, up big going into earnings. Google still incredibly strong despite everything, still holding the 21-day, one of the better names out there. Amazon capitulated today. It had been one of the stronger names. Capitulated, broke below the 50-day. Now you got to watch this gap down here at 171.47 if we don't bounce. Meta earnings next week, also right at this gap, 475.82. So again, these charts are not horrible. Look how far above the 200-day it still is. This is just a little bit of a pullback here, a little rest. Meta, for what it's worth, when we talked about, Apple, Apple, new range lows. What's going on with Apple, right? Don't know. 162.80, the 52-week low. We talked about this big M pattern that has shown itself here on the daily chart. Here's the midpoint right here. It just broke below it. Could be a lot more down room on this one if they want. And finally, let's talk Netflix. I got a lot of people telling me they don't understand why Netflix is getting beaten up. Netflix had a stellar report. I'm not going to take anything away from that report. They beat nicely on EPS. They beat nicely on revenue. They beat on subs. The problem came in, and their guidance was not bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was up. The problem came in is they're changing how they want to be viewed. They are no longer want to be viewed as a growth company. Translation, we are not going to provide you with subscriber numbers anymore, and we're not going to provide you with the revenue by subscribers. So we want you to deal with us like you would deal any other media company as based on our EPS and our revenue and our growth. Guess what? You're giving Wall Street less information, and the market doesn't like that. The market's throwing a temper tantrum and letting it know. It's telling them very clearly, we do not like this, and if you want to be treated as a media company, your P&E is 50, and the media company's P&E is 10. You're going to be treated that way. So over the weekend, do your homework. We go into next week. We have PCE on Friday. That's a big one. We have GDP, I think, on Wednesday. 6 day downs in a row. At this point, I'd start looking for some type of bounce here. but it's an orderly sell-off. We still haven't had any kind of major flush. In a perfect world, you'd love a big flush on the open or pre-market and then come raging back. We'll see what we get. Link in the description below, smartoptiontrading.com if you want to join us. Everybody have a fabulous weekend, and I will do charts on Sunday.